welcome everybody to the third QPR Hoops and Dreams podcast. And this month, it being the month of October, I have Northwest Hoops, who is otherwise known as James, and Steve Stotey. Very warm welcome to you both. Very glad that you're here.
Evening, Kingfisher.
Okay, so let's get on with last month and talk about that. Last month we had a rather strange start to the month because we didn't do anything until the 11th. And that was Reading against QPR. Reading came into this game having been beaten by Swansea, Bristol, Stoke, Coventry, and a thumping 4-0 defeat to Huddersfield. They had no draws and only one win, which was against Preston North End, which could be relevant for later on in their conversation. So what could possibly go wrong from our perspective? Both sides were able to field an almost complete squad, and the result was still a nail-biting 3-3 draw. So QPR slipped down the table to fourth position, 12 points. So Stotey, first to you, I guess, in the deep end. I've got to ask, was this a lucky draw or were we robbed?
At the end of the day, I think it was a bit of a lucky draw. We started quite well. Old Don Ball got us a goal after about 11 minutes, I think it was. And I thought we were doing quite well. And then all of a sudden, we imploded. And I suppose it'd been on the cards in previous games. In the early parts of the half, I thought we'd done well, but we had plenty of chances. We overall in the whole match, I think we had something like 20-odd shots on goal, and that John Swift, was he a Chelsea reject?
Not much of a reject.
He came back, didn't he? And some of these good players, I mean, and we saw it in the Millwall game as well with their player, and Swift has come in and he's done brilliant and he's scored a hat-trick. And at that, we were really, really rocking. But the fight back happened and it showed our fighting spirit. And I think that's what is brilliant about this team at the moment. They don't know when to die. They continue even when they're looking like they're about to get swamped. So coming back and getting the 3-3, it was a good point at the end of the day. But at the start of the match, I'm sure Warburton was thinking, well, another 3 points here. But
can't blame.
No, and at the end of the 90 minutes, I took that 1-1 and thought it was a decent result.
So, James, were you surprised by the result?
No, as Stotey just said, it is a lucky draw when you think that with 10 minutes to go, we're 3-1 down. But I remember Warburton saying after the game, he was stood there thinking, how are we 3-1 down in this match? It was Reading, I think, had 4 shots and they were 3-1 up. But I know it's probably going to cover a bit more of the month than just this match. But I'd look and we've only had against us in the 6 games 23 shots and we've conceded 11 goals. So every 2 shots that a team have, they're going to score one. And that's not sustainable, is it? That's ultimately, if we don't improve that, that's what's going to cost us. We shouldn't have been 3-1 down in that game. We were comfortable. And then, like, Swift obviously is a good player, but he shouldn't be letting him score 3 goals. And then it is great to see us come back, but there was the theme of that point in the season, or the point of the month. We shouldn't have kept going 2 goals behind in games, and we did it again, obviously, in the next game as well. But like I said, we're basically conceding 1 goal for every 2 shots we have against us, and it's not good enough.
No, it wasn't. And I was sitting with my wife having a high tea at the time, and I was thinking, well, thank God there's no Wi-Fi here, because otherwise I'm going to be very, very bad company. And I'm really glad I didn't get to listen to the game at all. To manage 3 goals from our perspective, obviously very, very good. To let Swift score so many goals, that in itself is not good. It really isn't good. And okay, you get the impression that the centre backs didn't seem to be linked up. They weren't thinking the same way. You know, what we're seeing in later games is each of them covering for the other and moving across quickly to fill a hole. That wasn't there at times. It was pretty dire, it must be said. So the other thing I would say is that the wing backs were really holding on to the ball for far too long. You know, there was no service, was there, really, in the middle? So it was poor.
Well, Adebayo was at fault, wasn't he, for the first goal? He was not watching anything that was going on defensively. And again, that's probably a theme for the month a little bit down that side.
I think so too. Yeah, it was.
Big credit though to Warburton in that game for bringing on Albert and Gray when he did, because they turned it. They were the two guys that turned it. And Albert, again, as an impact player, he certainly does the business. I mean, you can't see him starting, but he's a great guy to have coming off the bench because he does do the business, doesn't he?
He does. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, as we've all said, definitely the best crosser of the ball at the club. Yeah. And he's a great option at 70 minutes. If you are trailing, you look to Albert Dome and you think, we'll get him on. You know you're going to get some service. And you always think when you're in a game, don't you, we're going to get one more chance. And with a Dome on the pitch, that's a lot more likely to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our second game, which was when we travelled to Bournemouth. That was a midweek game, featured on Sky TV. I'm sure you'll agree that Bournemouth had a poor return to the Championship last season. However, if we ignore their weird 6-0 thrashing by Norwich in the Cup, they came into this game with 3 draws and 3 wins. Obviously, Mark Warburton must have done his homework and he altered his training accordingly. Despite all that, the game ended, as I predicted, a 2-1 win for the Cherries. So starting with you, James, did you manage to watch this match live? And was it the right team selection?
I can't even remember what team he chose now. But
I can help you there. Kakai was at right back.
Yeah, well, there you go.
On the left, and up front it was Chair, Dykes, and Willock.
Well, when you mentioned Kakai there, that's one thing I wanted to mention. Is that I feel like Kakai, not specific to that Bournemouth game, but I feel like he's regressed a little bit this season. And players, obviously, you want him to keep going and not with curve like Aurelius Chairs and Chris Willicks. They just seem to keep improving. Kakai, I don't know whether he's stagnated or this is just as good as he's going to get, but I don't feel comfortable as I did in the past when he's on the pitch, and it was the same in other games when he's appeared. Against West Brom, you just feel like there's a vulnerability. I know Adebayo hasn't exactly been outstanding either, but Kakai, I was hoping he was going to keep getting better and better and better, and I wonder now whether he's starting to fall into the Nico Hammerleinen bracket of, has he reached where he's going to be and where we now want to get to, top 6, if not higher. I don't feel, unfortunately, like he's at the level we need him to be. And I hope I'm wrong, but Kakai in that game was one. I mean, obviously it was Dick who shot us in the foot, but Kakai, the whole defence, I suppose, weren't the best. But just something on Kakai that I had thought across the month that he's obviously not appearing as much anyway. Maybe that's not helping, getting 20 minutes here and there. But when he does get his chances, he's not really taking them, is he, anymore?
No, and I would certainly. You're right about Dickie's failure. Prior to that, you'd had 10 minutes of total dominance by QPR, and he switched off, and then that was a goal down. And to get the ball stolen off him like that, I'm sure he's probably had nightmares about that ever since. But it's behind him now. Hopefully, it won't be another one. And the second goal, the ball came across from right to left, amongst the attackers, and Kakai was wholly out of position for that one, and left them really exposed. The saving grace for me was the superb goal from McCallum. That really was a great move. And let's put this into perspective. This was our first defeat in how long? I don't know. Ages.
9
months.
143 days it was the first time we'd lost.
Whoa.
Right.
But then in typical QPR fashion, we then lost 3 in 10 days to follow it up.
So, Steve, did you feel it was a fair result and a good
I
team?
did. Overall, although I have to say, again, a bit like the Reading game, I think they only had 4 shots on target. And they've scored from 2 of them. In the Reading game, I think they had 4 shots on target and scored from 3 of them. You know, it's clinical finishing. And the lad Solanke, I mean, he was taking a lot of stick, wasn't he? The Rangers fans were giving him a bit of stick, and then unfortunately he repaid us by popping up and scoring the goal. So
Yeah,
but,
true.
overall, I think I predicted it as well, Kingfisher, like you. I think I went for a 2-1 defeat. I thought that Bournemouth away might be the end of the run, and unfortunately it was.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
No.
You have to put it into some context now, though, looking back, that Bournemouth are still unbeaten, top of the league, and we gave them a good run for the money. I mean, their goalkeeper was probably man of the match. Yes, we didn't give ourselves a chance by going 2-0 down, but it was probably their hardest match of the season. I know they've drawn some and we lost, but they'll know that they were against a good team that night. And at the time, we hadn't lost for so long, but even looking back, they're still unbeaten. They are a good team, and we did well looking back on it, really.
Well, I thought in the second half, once McCallum had scored, I thought Bournemouth were hanging on. I thought that we really, you know, if we'd got that equaliser,
who knows?
We nearly did, but I just thought we could have nicked it or even got that equaliser. But we were unlucky in a way. But having said that, Bournemouth were a decent team.
Yeah, okay. So I think we're all in agreement on that one, funnily enough. Match 3, we're at home to Bristol City, which brought back the return of Nahki Wells.
Yeah.
Just to put this into perspective. So Bristol City have had, up until then, a fairly mixed bag of results. And I noted that they'd beaten Reading, which is more than we could manage. The result was a 1-2 defeat. And I went to that match. When I heard the screaming as Nahki Wells scored, it really didn't. It was not a happy journey home, put it that way. Anyway, so the atmosphere beforehand was absolutely fantastic. You know, after so long being away and everything, it was so good to go back and enjoy it. And yet again, the first 10 minutes were all us. They were really fantastic. That first break, though, that Bristol City did, you thought, oh no, we're going to have to watch out here because we're getting caught. And nothing changed my mind on that. They only had 4 or 5 breaks in the whole game and still managed to score 2 goals. So it's quite a good result. You know, as James keeps saying, you know, 50% success rate, that's not very good for us. It really isn't. Anyway, McCallum's equaliser was a good, well-worked goal. But really, chances were squandered. They really, really were. And you've got to question whether it was a good idea to take off Dominic Ball as a defensive midfielder, run without him, because
he brought him on, didn't he? He brought him on for Dykes.
Yeah, which says a lot, doesn't it? You know, he at least he admits his substitutions, I think, this season have been really good. He's started to think about what he's doing. I think he made a mistake with the starting lineup, but I think he made amends when he changed it around. And this was yet another poor performance, I'm afraid, from Moses Adebayo. He just seemed lost out there. You know, if he could find a difficult ball to do, he would do it rather than do something simple and get the ball across. He left us exposed time and time again, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's occurring to me now while we're talking through it that the right side is possibly where the issue is. I know even on the forum at the moment, people keep going left side. We've got obviously 2 injuries and it's a concern.
It's
but
true.
when you think of the right side, the Bournemouth, Reading first goal, Adebayo was at fault. The Swift goal, one of them at least, was a ball back across from that side. The Bournemouth match, you've got the second goal was from down, again, the ball back from that side. Then you've got this match, Bristol City, the first goal straight down that side. And then even looking at Preston, we've just had the goal ball down that side again. So there's, as much as everyone likes to criticise Todd Kane, I'm not convinced we've really improved in that area as much as I hope we have. Odebajo, I put it on the thing. My dad was saying, he's against Man United in pre-season, best right back we've had since David Bardsley. This guy looked unbelievable, and then since then
he was
downward curve, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's a classic one for what Stotey keeps saying about. He needs a contract to be renewed or to be signed, and he's fantastic. Rips up trees and everything. And as soon as that's happened and it's all settled, it seems to go backwards.
Yeah.
I think it's quite clear that he's a right winger turned into a fullback, isn't it? He's obviously a lot more comfortable going forward.
He is. So
I think overall, again, from what we've seen since the start of the season, the two lads, McCallum and Wallace, getting injured has been unlucky. The big concern for Warburton, he knows, is that right wing back position. It's a weak area, and he knows that he's got to bring somebody in. I mean, previously, exactly as James said, I was convinced it was the left side, and I thought, well, Wallace was the weak link, but Wallace has turned it around, and he's been absolutely superb. And then I was worried about McCallum, but McCallum's done superb. And now I'm thinking it's not that side at all. It's that right-hand side. And, just getting back to the actual game against Bristol City, I thought at times it was just one-sided. It was onslaught after onslaught. I think in the game, I think the stats were we had something like 23, 24, 25 shots on goal. 11 were on target, and it wouldn't go in the net.
It was a freak result. It literally was, wasn't it? I know we lost. We can criticise the thing, but we still should have won 4-2. It was a freak result.
That's right, yeah.
But do you think it's significant, Stotey, that in fact it was again a wing back who scored, and not an attacker, not a striker?
Well, I think that has been our problem, isn't it? Our attackers aren't doing the business. Our strikers, I mean, they're coming up with the odd goal, and Gray's popped up with the odd goal, and so has and Charlie's done it, but Charlie hasn't been as prolific. I thought Charlie this season, starting from match 1, I thought we were going to see a scoring machine. But again, maybe I was expecting too much from the guy. He's lost that bit of pace. But I thought, what he's got in his head, he knows exactly the positions to go in. We'd see him for 60 minutes. He'd have us 1 or 2 goals up. But really and truthfully, for me, it's the big plus points have been Willock and Chair.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll come to them later on when we talk about Player of the Month. Okay, so let's move on to the Caribou Cup, or as it's rapidly becoming known in QPR circles as the Penalty Cup. This one was against Everton, and there was a hell of a lot of speculation before the game, particularly on the Hoops and Dreams forum, as to what sort of side we would be putting up. Would it be our B side? Would Everton put up their B side? In the end, both sides, I think, made 5 changes from their normal starting 11. And so it was a fairly equal one. And I think, to be honest with you, 2-2 at the end was probably about right. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but it was good. And I have to say, the penalties, they're fantastic, our team. I mean, the practice that they're doing on dead balls is unbelievable. It really is. You can see the improvements on the corners. You can see the improvements on the free kicks, and you certainly can see it on the penalties. So anyway, back to you, Steve.
Well, in this game, I wasn't expecting us to play such a strong team. If I'm honest, I thought Warburton would play some of the fringe players, but he didn't. He surprised me. And certainly in that first 20 minutes, Willock and Chair in this game, and to a lesser extent McCallum down that left-hand side, were tremendous. And I know that reading the reports from the Everton fan sites after the game, they were saying about Willock and Chair, sign them up. That's how they were impressed. And that cross that Chair put in for Charlie to then, flick that one into the net. Oh, what a goal. It was and I think that game, it was as exciting as I'd been over a QPR Cup game in a long, long time. Because, the previous games, against Orient and Oxford, we were expected to win them, I suppose. But in this game, I thought we were going to be up against it. I thought Everton would expose the back line. And whilst they got a couple of goals, I thought we held our own and deserved our win. And as you say, those penalties, fantastic. Absolutely amazing that, have we missed a penalty yet? Not, I suppose not since, was it Dykes last season?
That's or was it Austin? Yeah, you're right. I've got to ask, James, were you nervous during the penalties?
Yes, very nervous. It meant a lot, this one. I know a lot of Everton fans. My father-in-law is an Everton fan, so I was desperate for us to win this one, not only because it's a cup and I actually really wanted us to do well in the cup for one. Even my generation who started following in the 90s, we've never had any kind of cup one. So it probably leads us to what we'll probably talk about later with Sunderland, but I really hope we give it everything in that match. But the Everton match I thought we were brilliant. Look, we played Man United, Leicester, Everton. I know they were 2 pre-season friendlies, but we're more than a match for these teams. When we play our stuff, we are a really, really good team. I know we slipped a bit in the second half in that match. Could have been fatigue or whatever. Maybe the changes didn't help us as much as Everton bringing on 20-30 million pound players. But first half, we looked really, really good. And over the 90 minutes, 2-2 was fair, but then we deserved to win the penalties. 2 penalty shootouts, talking about missing penalties. We didn't miss any against Orient, any against Everton. So that's good to see that the lads have got that confidence to go up there and take it, because it's not easy as England proved.
Not so. Yeah. I think. Go on, Sturdy.
I was just going to say it was good that some of the young lads like Duke McKenna went up, took a penalty, and he put it home. It must have been great for him because he was on Everton's books at one stage. So
that's right.
Scored against his club who literally have said, "Well, you're not good enough. Off you go," sort of thing. It's sort of like it's one up for you, isn't it? And good luck to the lad. He came on, he did well when he scored his penalty, and that's what I like to see.
I think the thing here is that this is probably a match that Mark Warburton probably did not want to have. It was really yet another example of the congested fixture folder for him, and he must have thought, "Oh no, not another one." But he put on, put on the strong side. He got the business done, and I honestly believe there must be. I'll bet you Dieng's even taking penalty practice. I think that's how good they are. There's so much thought going into this, so I'm pretty impressed. But anyway, so now we've got, what is it, the fourth? I think we've gone into the 4th round now for the first time in 13 years. Yeah. And we've got an interesting fixture. Could be a good one. We'll come on to that in a minute. One negative that came out of this is McCallum getting that serious injury.
Yeah.
And we should mention that, I think.
Yes.
Great loss.
Yeah. Whilst that was the downer on the night, Amos coming on and playing for a little while was the upside. And very unfortunate about McCallum because he was just getting going. He'd scored a couple of goals. He was looking good in that position. And that was a shame. But for me, the plus side was Amos came on as well, got a few minutes, and hopefully now he'll be pushing for a permanent first team place.
Yeah, when you mentioned Duke McKenna taking a penalty, it made me think Luke Amos. Imagine the confidence it must have given him. He's been out for 11 months, goes up there, puts it in the top corner. He must have just had a flood of just so much happiness and relief and everything in that moment. You could see him smiling, couldn't you? It was a great moment for him.
Yeah.
Great moment for Jimmy Dunn as well. I thought it was good him scoring the last one because he's a new player and it immediately makes fans acquainted with him and stuff like that. So that was good as well. Because he could become a bit of a cult hero, I think, Jimmy Dunn. He's got a little bit of a personality about him, as I think the fans are going to take to him.
He has, yeah. Yeah,
I
it's
think
very
he-
interesting with Jimmy Dunn as well. In the last couple of games, and I know we'll get onto them in a minute, but you know, the fact that Device has been he's been a tower of strength at the back. He's now, his place is definitely under threat from, and he's been fit in the last couple of games because he's been on the bench. And yet Jimmy Dunn has been Warburton's first choice. So, yeah, as you say, James, it's a good sign, really.
Yeah. I mean, we've won the last 2 games as well, haven't we? So can you drop him now? One of them was a clean sheet as well. So 2 wins, a clean sheet as well. Can you drop him? But it's strange with the defence. It's probably a wider conversation, but I like Dickey. Obviously, he's an amazing player. I think he's one of the best defenders in the division. Device is a monster, isn't he? You would want him in your team. Barbe, I've got some stats for him later on when we talk about the player of the month. And
he is amazing.
He's so influential. He's become like one of your first names on the team sheet. Jimmy Dunn's coming in. You're impressive with him. But yet we still look really vulnerable at the back.
Right.
So it doesn't really make sense when you say,
No,
Yeah, I think
No.
the interesting thing here is that Dunn is left-footed. Having him there on the left side of the centre backs to replace Barbe frees up Barbe to fill that left wing back position. We're very, very fortunate that we've got so many left-footed players. It really is very, very good. Okay, so on to the 5th match in September. Another tough opponent in West Bromwich Albion. This was an away game, and we unfortunately we eventually came up against an automatic promotion side who were out to win, and we lost 2-1. So that was our 3rd league defeat in a row, as we've mentioned earlier on. And injuries meant that Dunn played on the left of the back 3. That was the start of that, with Barbe at left wing back, and we had Moses Odebayo over on the right. So I'll start with you, James, if I may. Should we have won this match, or were we outclassed against a side loaded with PL players?
I wouldn't say we were outclassed, but we got what we deserved from the game. I thought this was the match where we were poor. I didn't enjoy the match. Most of the matches are entertaining. You come away, and even if it's been like the Bournemouth match, it was still entertaining. It was enjoyable. Where the West Brom match was, you couldn't wait for it to be over. It was terrible. I thought our performance. He got the tactics wrong, didn't he? Literally, I mean, you can say that it was the right thing to try, but surely the plan was, as the first minute proved, get the ball behind West Brom. And to me, after that first minute, all we did was just keep knocking it directly at Gray. And the ball just kept coming back time after time after time. And we didn't really influence the game with our changes. And it wasn't like the last 10 minutes West Brom were holding on, or I suppose they only won it late on. But even after this, we were just rubbish in that game. It was our one worst performance of the month. The other games we've had flashes and 10-minute spells at least where we've done well or whatever. But that match we just didn't perform at all, I didn't think.
no.
I'd agree with you there. And okay, we weren't expected to win this one, let's be honest about it. And so when we got the goal almost immediately, that in itself was a hell of a shocker, probably for both sides, if truth be known. And I think we matched West Bromwich Albion in so many areas. We really, really were close. But we were let down by a soft goal being conceded by Dieng. There's no getting away with it. It was his howler. You know, Dickey had one before. He had one on this game. And that allowed the Baggies back in. And the Baggies then carried on.
As bad as we were, we did hand them the victory on a plate, so to speak. We probably could have still won. We weren't great. We were playing the wrong way, but at 75 minutes, we probably could have held on for 1-0. And then the Dieng mistake just meant their crowd were up, and it was just inevitable then that it was going to win. We never had a foot in the game after that. But for as bad as we were, we probably still should have got a point at least out against another team that is second in the league, aren't they, up there? So again, it bodes well that we can be poor and be challenging these teams.
I agree. No, I agree. Stody, you feel the same?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think it was an unfortunate circumstances. There we were holding. Well, we were still in the game after about 75 minutes, and they got the equaliser from the Dieng mistake. As James said, the crowd were up, and then poor old Idio's chair, he loses the ball just about on the halfway line, and then it's in the net, 2-1 down, and it was just disappointing. But like with the Bournemouth game, really, Bournemouth, West Brom, first and second in the league now, and they are two good teams.
Yeah.
And what we proved is we can play against those good teams. And that's the positive that comes out of it for me, is that I thought we had our chances. You know, you ride your luck at times, and we certainly haven't had the run of luck in some of these games. Some silly mistakes we've made in, you know, you can go back to Device in the Bristol City game, making that late slip. Prior to that, Dickey had made a slip. In this game, Dieng, you know, 99 times out of 100, he's going to hold that ball, and it's, you know, it's not going to pick up in the net. And then Chair as well. It's just an unfortunate set of, you know, but I take the positive that we held our own for a lot of the game. It was a boring game. I think West Brom shooting on sight. They had about 16, 17 shots, and yeah, we move on, don't we? It was one of the games where I thought we might have got a draw. We didn't. So on to the next game really for us.
I think the sad thing about it was that we actually had a situation where we lost yet another two players through injury. You know, Johansson had to go off, and Device. And Device obviously hasn't come back since. But that in itself is a cause for concern. The war of attrition is definitely going on there. Okay, let's get on to our next one before we run out of time. Birmingham at home. That was the final match in September. We came into this off the back of, obviously, as we said, 3 defeats. They came off of it with a goalless draw against Preston. So, you know, must have thought we were doing pretty well here. A good chance. They were sitting in 12th place. We were in 10th by then, and we were on the same number of points. So it should have been a good likely candidate for a draw. Perhaps because of the injuries, but anyway, we went with a 4-4-2 with the back four of Odebayo, Dickey, Dunn, and Barbe, with Dazelle partnering Ball in the middle, alongside Willock and Chair, and Dykes and Austin up front. Sounds like a really attacking side to me, but the match was played in continual heavy rain. So any attempts to get any skill were going to be, you know, they're going to struggle. We're better off going for an Olympic swimmer, I think, than anybody else. But Chair, God bless his heart, managed to score in both halves and make it into a 2-0 win. But it was not looking pretty, was it? So, so come on then, Stody. What do you think? Fair description of the game?
Yeah, I think so. I think very fair. I think Chair's first goal was a bit lucky as well, because I think it came off the defender's head, which unsighted the goalkeeper. But that was our bit of luck, you know, after having some matches where we hadn't had any luck. That was it. And on the day, the Birmingham two, old Hogan and Deeney, they didn't have their scoring boots on, did they? They were having shot after shot, and Dieng really wasn't, you know, troubled whatsoever.
They didn't have a shot.
No, there you go. I didn't think they did on the day, but yeah, they seemed to create a lot of chances, but nothing really troubled the goalie. So, you know, that was good for me. And I was also impressed by young Dazelle, because he needed a decent game. I mean, hopefully he's got over the what game it was now when we were 2-2. That was Barnsley, yeah, where he got taken off after 30 minutes. And I thought it could destroy the young lad at the time. But it's great to see him. He's bounced back. It doesn't seem to have troubled him. And yeah, he had a good solid game in that match.
He did.
And good luck to him, because I think, again, it's those problem positions for us. Ball, Johansson, you know, they get injured. We do need Dazelle coming in to back them up, especially now, you know, with Field being out as well.
And James, you happy? You happy with it?
It was just an important win. It was as simple as that. It didn't really matter how we got the win that night. It was just after the 3 league defeats. It would have been typical QPR after that great unbeaten one we were all talking about, and to go then match after match, and it was just a massive win. I didn't think Birmingham were a good team at all. I actually think we're probably one of the worst teams I've seen this season out of the 11 we've played, to be honest. I know you were saying they were 12 beforehand, but I think every team, literally the worst team we played, they were poor. They were there to be beaten, and we just got the job done. Didn't matter if it was pretty. It was the conditions made it hard to play our game, I suppose. It was just to literally get the 3 points, and obviously then when we could have a bit more freedom, I suppose, against Preston. Otherwise, there would have been even more pressure on that next game. We could look back on it and think that was a massive win for the season to nip that testing time in the bud at that point. Say we go on a run now where we're unbeaten again. That Birmingham match was a big win, just a big win.
It was.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I mean, I think it was interesting to see the 4-4-2 at work. Obviously, they thought about this, how they were going to play it, and you know, you're right to point out about Dazelle and Ball in the middle. They were superb. It really was a very good all-round victory. It really was. Oh.
As well, with that position taken up at the team, he's playing at left wing back effectively, and he was brilliant, wasn't he? Just he was a brilliant player anyway. We'll probably talk about again with player of the month and things like that. But some players wouldn't like it. I can imagine some egos. You say, right, you're going to have to do a job for us tonight at left wing back in that range. They wouldn't like it. Imagine Adel Tarat. Imagine if you told him he had to do that. He wouldn't like it. Even a Berriese, could he have done that job at left wing back when we had him? Probably not. So for Willock to do that, he was battling back, blocking crosses. Next minute, he's on the attack with us. He deserves a mention for that game. I know he did the same thing against Preston, but in the Birmingham match, he was very good.
Jolly good. Okay, so that was not our final match. It was the last match in September, but then we had one in October before this recording was made, and we were at home to Preston. Preston North End is a side that we, for reasons best known to QPR, we always seem to struggle with. I'm not really sure why, but we eventually came out 3-2 winners. It was a hard-fought game, and yet again, we would have been better off with Olympic swimmers than footballers, because it was in terrible conditions. If anybody thinks there's not any climate change going on, they're completely mistaken. So, before this, Preston had managed only 5 consecutive draws. An incredible run of stats, that. Whereas the R's had managed to finish off all their losses and were on winning ways again. And we were 8th versus their 15th. And QPR had unfortunately been beaten by Preston North End both times in the last few seasons. We got a very poor record against them, so perhaps we shouldn't have been too surprised at the way things turned out. Certainly the weather did not help in terms of the possession-based football that we love to play. It far more suited the boys at the back of Preston. So after much disappointment, this month I was hoping for a birthday treat. I was hoping that this would be the icing on the cake for my birthday. And in the end, it did turn out to be that way. But gosh, what a way to go. When you support QPR, it's hard work at times. So, Steve, you're obviously happy with the win. But what did you think could have been done differently to improve our performance?
It was one of the, as you said, it's a typical QPR performance, wouldn't it? We start off so well. Dykes gets an early goal. You know, first 20 minutes, there we are, 1-0 up, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is it, another easy win today. Well, true to form, as both you and James have said, Kingfisher, it's, you know, we then, wow, bit poor marking, wasn't it? It was poor marking. Their danger man, what was he called? Reece Jacobson, was it?
Yeah.
He's done well. He scored a few goals from this season. we knew before the game he was the man to watch, and he does the business, doesn't he?
He did a good job for them.
He did. And again, it wasn't as though we weren't having our chances, because I think we were having lots of shots. We were even having a few shots on target this time. But no, second half starts, early second half, and we're 2-1 down. And I'm now thinking, you know, I think we're going to struggle today. And then, of course, we did struggle. And I don't know, what Jimmy Dunn then pops up, doesn't he? I mean, and we could have said it was Jimmy Dunn. Was it Jimmy Dunn's fault for the first Preston goal? He sort of like got caught by the ball going over the top, and then Dieng, the ball goes underneath him into the goal. So, you know, but
it was a catalogue.
It wasn't good, but he made up for it, didn't he? He, you know, first one, the ball comes in, gets his toe to it, it ends up in the net, and then there was only one winner for me then. It was just a case of when were we going to score? And good old Ilias, he pops up and he gets that winner.
He does a great job, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So James, did you think that the weather conditions had anything to do with it?
I thought it was an entertaining game. I know Preston don't particularly help with that, but it was obviously one of those matches where when you come out 3-2, at the end you're buzzing, aren't you? So it was a good game. The weather, a bit like the Birmingham game, like you said yourself, didn't make anything easy. But I think we played better against Preston when we played well than we did against Birmingham in the patches where we were getting things right. I thought it was going to be a bit like the Reading match at one point, as Stotey just said. We're 1-0 up, we look comfortable. All of a sudden, we're 2-1 down. Arguably, could have started to like we're going to go 3-1 down, but thankfully we turned it around, got back on the front foot, and hopefully it's another one of those like galvanising moments that good teams tend to have, where you're behind, you win, the team comes together at the end, you see them all hugging, the crowd is cheering, aren't they? And they're sticking behind it. In the game, clubs put some videos, haven't they? And the crowd are all singing to chairs. He's giving them claps at the end of the match, and those moments, they bond the fans, they bond the players, and the 10-11 promotion season had a few of those moments, didn't it, where we looked like we were down and out, and we come back, and just creates that mentality. And hopefully Saturday's another one of them. And to beat Preston, as you said, I think what was it? We'd beat them 6 times in 30 games or something like that. So it's a good win on all counts, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a poor record, and we did well. I mean, also the other thing I think that we've got to mention is the fact that Preston North End, they play a dire game of football. I mean, if that's how you want to win games, I don't think I would love. I couldn't support them. There's no way. You know, and that second goal, when that came in for them, it looks as though if you look at the replay, it looks as though Moses had a hand put on his face, and which allowed the guy to score. Because afterwards he was reeling around on the ground with his hand in his face. And then I must mention, in fairness, when Dunn scored that goal at the other end, there was a guy who was defending so far back that he caught the ball in the back of the net, and Dunn then went and grabbed it off him, and it did appear to push him slightly, shall we say?
He did, yeah, he did.
Which goes to show his excitement. It goes to show his enthusiasm and how much they really do want to win. But he's got to be careful. You do stuff like that, you'll end up getting sent off.
Yeah, well, Charlie got away with one, didn't he, earlier in the season?
Yes. Yeah, good point.
But the thing I would say about the whole QPR team at this moment in time, and that showed it, is that will to win. And you never, ever really think they're out of the game, even when they are 2-1 down. And I was thinking, oh no, it's just from previous games, you know, with this team, they don't give up. You know, I don't know what Warburton has said to them this year that's changed things, but you know that they can be 2-1 down or even 3-1 down, and they can get back in and they can win the game. It's just, if we can just stop those silly goals that we keep conceding. And as I've said in the previous podcast, I think someone is going to get a real tanking off of us. But by the same token, you know, we could take a tanking off of somebody else if we keep making the silly mistakes that we do.
Yeah, I do agree with you about what you were saying about the the way that we keep going. I mean, Roger Hunt's just died, and he was a member of the Shankly side that basically most of their wins were done in the very dying minutes of the game because they just kept going. And that seems to be the mentality that we've now got, which is great, you know, and long may it continue.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to mention was that they seemed to be, it seemed to me, maybe I'm wrong, it seemed that Ball was interacting far more with the defence as the intermediary than Johansson. And Johansson was pushed forward and working there. And it didn't work. For me, it didn't work as well as it should have done.
He wasn't fit, was he?
Well, Ball was coming back so far. He was at one point, he was in the centre-back's position.
Yeah.
And Johansson looked, I don't know, off pace or whatever.
He was. No, he was. He wasn't fit, was he? I think Warburton brought him back too soon. He should have left him out for that game. With the international break now happening, you know, it gave him another few days rest, and that's what he probably would have benefited from. It's
what he needs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap up. Let's wrap up the month and a bit. We won 2 games, lost 3, drew 1. Our position currently is 6 in the table, so we're just in the playoff position. We've got 7 points out of this month. We've scored 11 goals, conceded 11, which doesn't sound quite as good, does it, for a team in 6th place? If you extrapolate that through, it comes out as 75 points for the end of the season. It's not good enough, actually. Not if we want to get into the playoffs.
No, but I think every...
Go on, Study.
No, all I was going to say, James, was that I think every team's going to have ups and downs this season. There, you know, Bournemouth and West Brom are looking good. Fulham are up there, but I think every team will have injury problems. They will have slip-ups. And let's be honest, we've only been beaten by the 2 top teams and a very lucky Bristol City. I'm still relatively confident that we're going to do well. And the other thing I would say is it's much better that we're up there in 6 than it was in previous systems when we've been down near the bottom and struggling. At least we've got some hope, haven't we? You know, and even if we don't go up, as long as, I mean, the football's been good. We're seeing lots of goals, and as I had said previously on the forum, that neutral fans must love watching our games because they get an exciting game, they get plenty of goals, and if your team go out and maybe even if they do lose 3-2, you know, at least you're seeing a good attacking game where you know that maybe your team could have won it. So
I agree.
I'm not downhearted. I'm quite positive, and I'm normally the one that isn't a positive person, really. Certainly not where QPR are concerned, anyway.
James, you feel the same?
Yeah, I was just going to say the 75 points that we take us to would probably just get us in the playoffs, which stands about right because we're 6th at the moment. I think the average is 73, 74, so 75 would just be about enough. But when you say what you said at the start, then it's in the summary, 7 points from 6 games, that isn't really top 6 form, is it? But then, as Stokey just said, we've played first and second team away from home. We've got that out of the way. I remember Johan Barbie saying himself that we'd played Middlesbrough and Hull away in August and got them out of the way. So there's a few little things in our favour in terms of the fixtures there, which bodes well. We topped the league for shots on target with 67.
Yeah,
so
true.
We're an attacking force. We just need to sort out, as we've been discussing a lot, the defence. If we do, then I have no doubt we're going to finish top 6. It feels like we're top 6. I've seen a lot of the matches on the telly, the highlights of the team, trying to keep up with all of them. And I genuinely believe we probably are maybe the 3rd, 4th best team when we play our game. We're probably even maybe the best team when we actually have our spells when it's chairing to Willock, flipping it around. we look unbelievable, but then click your fingers, the other team has scored, and that is going to be our Achilles heel, and hopefully it stops. Maybe now having an international break, they can work on it, but maybe it's puzzling Warburton as much as us, because as I discussed before, all the defenders, they're all really good. The goalkeeper, we wouldn't change him. maybe the right side and the obviously is the area, but the centre halves are all good. The goalkeeper's good. We like all the players are all good, but yet we concede. Feels like we feel vulnerable every time a team comes at us, and 7 points from 6 games isn't a good enough month if we want to have a good season. So obviously we need to improve on that. We need to improve on that next month.
Do you think, I mean, part of the problem I feel is that if it is a problem, is that we are possession-based football. And because of that, you're involving lots of players in triangles as they move up the pitch. So you're committing players to that sort of play. A breakaway at that point leaves you really exposed. Now, if you're prepared to accept that you can take the odd breakaway goal and just shrug it off, the only way you're going to actually do any shrugging off is if we score more. And that's actually, for me, funnily enough, I think is the real problem. We have got a front line that is just not on fire. Not one of them.
We're having the shots, though. I can say we are having the shots, though. We're top the league for shots on target. So,
but not scoring.
We're not scoring, but we could be the opposition goalkeepers more than our strikers. And we've got all our goals, 22 goals in the league from 11 different players. So we're getting goals from all over the pitch. There's obviously players who can put the ball in the net. I think the attacking verve is there. We could have a little bit more in our favour, maybe. No Dan Bentley, more goalkeeper performances like Bristol City. It didn't help. We could have scored 6 in that game, couldn't we?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a problem with the attacking. It is just keeping it tight at the other end. If we keep a clean sheet, even if we win 1-0 in games, we don't seem to be that type of team, do we? It's always 3-2s.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to live with it.
Well, I think it's only Fulham who've scored more than us, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Okay. Quick review of last month's prediction competition, which, funny enough, two of the three are here with us. Minxie, Martin, no. Martin and I share the honours, which is not much of an honour. All three of us got 3 predictions. Which is not that brilliant, is it, out of 7 games? But he and I got 2 exact scores. So
well done.
Not much in it, to be quite honest with you, lads. Not much at all. So we'll have to see how we get on with the next one. See how we get on with that. So, but it must be now down to crystal ball time. So again, October's exactly the same. We've got another international break. We don't start until fairway in. I think Saturday the 16th is the first one. And it's a nice, easy one against Fulham.
Yeah.
Away. Another midday Sky transmission. Fulham are obviously the obvious candidates for automatic promotion, along with West Bromwich Albion. Especially given their depth of squad and the experience they've got. But they actually have stuttered during September. They've not done as well as we expected. So on with that, Steve, what are your predictions?
Well, I think we'll get something out of this game. I think London derbies, they're always tight affairs anyway, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think 1-1, but that man Mitrovic, you know, he's scoring for fun, isn't he? And I think if we can keep him quiet, it'll be interesting to see whether or not he decides to bring back a device for this game and say to him, you know, mark Mitrovic, or whether he even says it to Dickey. You know, to me, he's the guy you've got to keep quiet. You know, he does score the goals. In this league, he's deadly. But I can see us getting there 1-1.
Okay, James, your prediction?
0 points. No chance. Fulham on telly. Genuinely, when it's been televised by Sky, I don't think we've ever got more than a point. I know there was a 2-2 draw a few years ago against when they put us on telly against Fulham. We'd never do well. The one match we won at their place when Silla scored, that wasn't on the telly. We beat them in the Premier League when Tarat scored that goal with the outside of his boot, wasn't on the telly. Fulham on telly against QPR at Craven Cottage. I'll watch it, but I know we're going to lose.
Okay. Do you want to predict a score?
I'd probably say, well, we've scored, haven't we? That's the thing, is that people are starting to pick up now. We've scored for 25 matches in a row, and it's our best run for 59 years. So you can guarantee now that that will probably end. So I will go for 2-0 Fulham. I've seen so many of those matches over the end and never seen us do well. So there you go, 2-0 Fulham.
Okay, my one was a 1-1 draw, same as Stody. So we shall see. Perhaps we turn out to be the optimists of the forum. Who knows? The following Tuesday, the relentless march of the Championship continues with a home game against Blackburn, who've actually had a better start than us, and are sitting in the playoff areas above us. So, James, your thoughts and predictions for this one?
Well, Blackburn, I've watched us a lot against Blackburn at Blackburn over the years, and they're a bit like a Preston for us, it feels, where they're just a team that it doesn't, I know we have beaten them, but it seems so fleeting and rare when we do. And obviously it's midweek, we might as well have lost against Fulham. Obviously we're going to draw 1-1, but if we do lose, it's got a bit of pressure on it because the expectation this season, isn't there, around the fan base? So I would put us down for a draw in that one personally. I just don't like the matchup against Blackburn, and they are a good team. They are a good team. They know this league. They're hard to beat. They'll be doing the dark arts. If we go 1-0 down, it'll be rolling around 5 minutes to take a throw in and all that kind of stuff. And it's just one of those nasty fixtures. I don't know if nasty is the right word, but it's just one of those matches I just don't like Blackburn against us. And I'll go for a draw. Because we're at home, I still think we might pick up a point.
Score draw?
1-1, yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Blackburn have thumped Cardiff 5-1. They've drawn with Barnsley and also Luton, who are having a good run. And they've beaten Hull and also beaten Huddersfield, I think, as well. So I've got them down as a 1-1 draw, funny enough, as well. So, Steve, what do you want to go for?
No, 2-0 to us for me in this one. I'm positive they've conceded. I know we've conceded 16, but I think they've conceded 14. No, the home advantage for me in this one is big, and I can see us winning, and I'm going for a 2-0 in this one.
Good stuff. I hope I get to this one. Okay, on the 23rd, which is a Saturday, we are away to Peterborough, who obviously are without Ivan Toney these days, but and they're sitting in the relegation zone after what was a reasonably good start in August, and then it just all went wrong. I honestly feel that Posh are in a false position where they are, but nevertheless, I'm going for a 2-1 win for us. So, Steve, your thoughts?
I agree with you totally. I've gone for 2-1 as well in this one. I think if we're going to do anything this year, these are the games we've got to win. Although in the past they've been our Achilles heel. We play teams that are down near the bottom, and we don't perform as well as we should do. But I think with the current squad of players that we've got, I think Warburton will have them on the money for this game, and I think we'll get a 2-1 win.
I love your positivity. James?
Yeah, I mean, it's the easiest fixture of the month on paper, famous QPR last words, isn't it? But this is like literally took the words right out. If we want to get top 6, anything more than that, we've got to be winning this type of game. This match might need to be put in the context of the start of it's at the start of a 3 games and 6-day period, isn't it? From the Saturday to the Friday. We've got the cup match. Is he going to already start making changes? Is he going to have one eye on the cup match? So that could always throw a spanner in the works. But I'd like to think we can. If we can play our game against Peterborough, we're a better team than them. We are, no disrespect to Peterborough, but it's away. It's October. It could be monsoon weather again. It could be cold. We might not like it, but I think we should win that one. I'd go for even 3-1. I think we can outscore Peterborough comfortably. 3-1. There you go.
Wow. Okay. I like this. This is getting good. right? So
Don't forget. In my world, we were on the back of a draw and a defeat there, so we really need that win.
well, that game is followed, as you alluded to there, by the 4th round of the Caribou Cup, which is on the following Tuesday, and against Sunderland. And Sunderland are no sort of easy game against them. They are doing really, really well at the top of League One. The big advantage we've got, we're at home, and we know how to do penalties. So a lot of it's going to turn around on player availability, very much so. So, James, who do you think is going to be the side that he's going to put out? And prediction?
He's going to be Archer, isn't he? Probably be. I mean, again, I'm about to say then it's going to be the second, like the B team, the fringe players. But against Everton, he didn't play that team, did he? No. He went stronger, and I think the first quarter final in a generation, as I said earlier. Hopefully, he plays a stronger team than what I was about to say. But I'd probably guess he played Kakai. The defence, he probably has to play a strong defence because he's not got as many options as he. No. Like Dicky, he's probably still been playing every match. Barbe, it'll be Dunn or Device, depending which one's been playing at the weekend. You'd probably imagine it might be Dazelle and Amos. Might be the first time he gives Amos a start in that game. Because he might just keep him as a sub over the next couple of matches, 30 minutes here and there. And then that maybe he's got his in mark for 90 minutes then. One of Chair and Willock maybe, or is he going to play both? You don't know. You have to see how he plays the team against Peterborough to see if he does he go 2 strikers against Peterborough and rest a Chair or a Willock to then play both of them against in the cup against Sunderland. I imagine we'll definitely be seeing Amos, Dazelle. He doesn't seem to like Adoma from the start, does he? So he'll probably be on the.
I don't know why.
He deserves to play in the cup, I think, against Sunderland.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the old cliche, there's no easy matches, but by definition, this is the easiest match we could all have. And I just hope we seize it with both hands. Like I said earlier, this is you've got to think of the next generation of fans. My little boy is 4 and he loves the cups. He wants us to go through. He wants to see the draw. He wants to see he's doing his own little draw with his balls. If we lose a league match to Blackburn, he's fine. But if we lose in the cup, he'll be devastated. I know the older generation possibly like to think, oh, well, we need to make sure we prioritise the league and things. But the kids, I've seen a few examples on Twitter as well of the younger generation were mental when we beat in Everton and like absolutely loving it. But let's hope that we really go for this match. I would take a defeat against Peterborough and Forest either side if we can beat Sunderland. I want us to go to the quarterfinals in the cup, please. Fingers crossed.
I think you need to somehow get a dose of realism with your son and tell him that only one team actually at the end of all of this wins the cup.
Well, the funny thing is, he's come along. He only got into football in the summer, and England get to the final, which obviously hasn't happened in a whole generation or two. And then he really gets into QPR, and suddenly we're going through the cup as well. So maybe he's a lucky owner.
Yeah.
So come on then. Do you want to give us a prediction?
I would like to think we might be tighter because Sunderland will probably we might be 2-0 up. Sunderland maybe throw the kitchen sink at us, maybe a reverse of what we're usually doing. 2-1 to us. I don't think we'll need penalties. If he plays a strong enough team, please, I really want us to win that match.
And you, Stoti?
Well, I think this one depends on what priority the Sunderland manager puts on this particular match. Because as you said, they're up there challenging and their priority is to get out of League One and get back into the Championship. And then hopefully for them, I suppose they'll be thinking of bigger and better things. But if we play a similar team to the one that he played against Everton, then I cannot see us not winning. I think we're going to win it 2-0. I think Warburton, if he had had a chance of playing fringe players, he would have done it in the last game. The fact he didn't, I believe he's taken the cup seriously, and every match he's taken seriously, and I think he wants to win it. And I can see this win 2-0 I'm going for.
Oh my God. Do you think that then maybe Mark Warburton's becoming the Sean Dyche of the Championship? You know, he only ever plays his top starting 11 and that's it.
Well, he's done that, hasn't he? I mean, when you see, I mean, well, he's brought in a Doma for a couple of the cup games, but by and large, they're very strong teams that he's putting out. When he's had the opportunity of playing
I agree.
some of the fringe players, he's not done it. So I can't see him. Why would he change against Sunderland? I can't see it. So I'm going to go, as I say, I think a good win for us. Maybe I'm too positive now. That's Minksy Martin's done that to me. You know that, don't you? He's
Okay.
made me a positive guy.
I mean, obviously, everything we say is with a caveat because we have no idea how strong the side is going to be that he's going to put out. And you've got to start looking now. We're in the 4th round. You've got to start having this thought about, well, the extra revenues in difficult times is not a bad thing to have. He may well put out a very strong side and take a hit on one of the games either side. I don't know. I've gone for a win without penalties, and I've gone for 2-0. So that's you and me, Stoty. Let's hope we're right.
Along the same lines again.
Then, in the real tribute that we're paying to the EFL, we're playing on the Friday against who is it against? Forest. Oh yes, of course it is. The Forest. It's a home game. It's Sky again. 3 games in 7 days. Forest have had a poor start to the season. There's no getting away from it. With only 1 recent win, and they're hovering around the relegation zone. Sacking Chris Houghton sort of helped. It seemed to have. They seem to have steadied the ship with Steve Cooper. Not sure why it's made any difference, but it has, the way these things do.
It has, though. They're above us in the form table for the last 6 games. So you've got to think of it in that way. We were 14th this month. If you looked at just this month, the 6 games, we were 14th. Forest were in the top 6 for the last 6 games. So if they keep that up by the time we're playing them, a much trickier fixture than it might look if you just looked at the league table right now. It's a tricky match, as they all are.
No, that's true. So, having said that, do you want to give a prediction?
Well, again, Friday night football doesn't really ever seem to do as many favours, does it? I don't even know. Do we win on a Friday night? I know we have kind of got some wins on Sky now over the time, but still on a Friday night, it always feels like we lose if we play on a Friday night because you look forward to it when you work that day and you think, all right, got the match tonight, and then we always seem to lose. I think that match, like I just said, Forest, I like Steve Cooper. I think he's a good manager, good appointment. I know it's a hard job always at Forest, and you're never more than a couple of games away from probably being under pressure yourself. But I think that's a tough match. We're going to have to play well to win. My head is actually telling me probably 1-1, but I'm going to go with my heart and say 2-1, and hopefully we can win. But I do think that is a tricky match, and like I say, if Forest keep the form up, that match when we play them, they could be hot on our heels, like if we haven't performed in the matches before.
They could. Stoty, do you think that with the FFL sword of Damocles hanging over them and all the other problems that they've had with massive spending and whatever, this is no more than they deserve? Or
I think it is no more than they, just like Derby. I mean, you know, I don't want to upset James there because I know he doesn't like Derby, but Derby, and I just, again, they get everything they deserve. We had to face the fines, didn't we, when we transgressed, and these guys have got the same's got to happen. So I feel sorry for the fans, I really do, because it's the fans that suffer for the owners and the for their, just for overspending and doing, what should we call it, some creative accounting that they use, some of these clubs. They got what they deserve, but now they've got Steve Cooper there. I do rate Steve Cooper. He's done a brilliant job at Swansea, and I never see us play well against Forest either. I just think Forest are a team, for whatever reason, we just don't perform well against. But I'm going to stay positive, and I'm going with James. I'm going with a 2-1 win.
Ooh, this is interesting. Okay, well, I've said a little note to myself, there was bound to be tired legs on a Friday, but I still think we'll go for a win, and I've said 2-0. So I'm even more optimistic than you two for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, on the following Wednesday, we have another championship game, and we record the November's podcast the day before. So I will be asking you for your predictions on this one too. We're away to Cardiff. It's a side that is languishing in the mid-table area after a series of defeats. So in theory, it shouldn't be any problems. James, do you see that this will go as we expect? And we'll start November on a high?
I do see a problem because I don't think Mick McCarthy will be in charge by the time we're playing them, and they'll.
You might be right.
So then again, it's the context of it. Forest. Look at the table now. Look at it in another couple of games, and they might be just near enough us. And Cardiff now, yeah, you'd love to play them today, but if they've got a new manager and they might have got back-to-back wins or something, and then we're playing them, it's not as easy as it may appear now. I'd rather play them on the 6th of October today than at the start of November. But it's another match that if we want to be top 6, we can't be complaining and worrying about these things. We've just got to perform, do our jobs, keep it tight, use our creative players, take our chances, and win the game.
We've got to do it, haven't we? At the end of the day, we've got to do it.
Yeah.
Looking at the stats. Oh, I need to ask you, what are you going to go for on your prediction?
If it's the Cardiff as they are now, I'll go with 2-1. I never like to predict too much. 2-1.
Okay, 2-1 to us, yeah?
Yeah, to us. Yeah, I don't think we'll lose, but I do think it could be a tough match still. Okay,
Stotey, your prediction? Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm going 1-1 in this one. I think Cardiff are a difficult team to play against. And the interesting thing for me at the moment is I don't think Kiefer Moore is getting in their team. And because we tried to sign him just before we got Linden in, and it's a surprise to me because he's done well in some of the international matches where I've seen him play.
Yeah.
But they're playing the old Luton player up front. Was it Collins? Called Collins.
Oh yeah, James Collins. Yeah.
James Collins. Yeah.
It's not bad.
And the bloke Harris, they're playing the front two, and he can't get in the team. And it surprised me, and I'm thinking, well, if he can't get in their team, they've got to have 2 good strikers. So, yeah, I'll go 1-1.
Well, that's interesting, this. I mean, logic says that where they are in the table and where we are, it shouldn't be a problem. But this is QPR after all, and it is the championship. So I've gone for a hard-fought 1-0 win. So on the projections this month, we've gone for 4 wins, no losses, and 2 draws, which is quite incredible. Let's see what happens next month when we review this.
Yeah, I had a look, and to stay in the top 6, we realistically need probably 9 points. After 16 games, I've had a look at the last couple of seasons, the average is 26 points. So we need another 8 points. So 8 or 9 points we need. We probably will lose one of those games. Obviously, it's easy for us to say, okay, we'll draw this, win that. We'll probably slip up at some point. It's the QPR way, isn't it? But if there's 15 points on offer there, we need to really realistically win 3 of those games, or 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 defeat. We need a better record than this month. We need more than the 7 from 6 that we got this month, don't we?
Yes.
Otherwise, we are going to be dropping down. We're going to be 9th or 10th by this time next month.
Yeah, you need to have some in the pocket, don't you? In case you get suspensions, injuries, and whatever. Yeah, it makes sense.
I'm hoping that after the international break, we'll see McCullum back, because he seemed quite bullish about his injury not being as bad as first thought. And Wallace, I'm assuming he's going to be ready, presumably late October. So, maybe with these guys coming back, it's going to be new play. It's going to be like having, fresh players to pick from. It's going to be good. I'm remaining positive. And then Field, when he comes back, hopefully he's back for the new year.
I was about to say that.
I think he's back on the training pitch. I don't think it'll be the new year. I think it could be soon. I think that could be maybe after the next international break. That's when maybe earmark him for a comeback there.
Now let's get back onto to track, and we'll go on to the player of the month. I guess we will start with you, James. Any thoughts on player of the month? Was it easy, or?
I was between two. I mean, it seems strange to me after all I've been saying to maybe choose a defender, but I'm just going to go with it was between Willock and Barley. Willock, I feel, is an obvious choice because he's just impressing in pretty much every game, isn't he, at the moment? Hopefully his injury actually seemed to maybe pick up an injury, didn't he, against Preston? So hopefully nothing too bad there. But Barbe, I know we've been conceding goals, but I don't think any of them have been Barbe's fault. He's just so dependable, so comfortable on the ball. He's become one of my favourite players. It's just so strange because he was verging on being a liability, wasn't he, when he first joined? He was giving away a penalty and every match, and he was a strange player in some ways. But now he would probably be my first name on the team sheet. Whenever any of us on the forums are predicting the team, you never see Barbe missing from one, do you? He's always in there. And at the end against Preston, the way he was like sliding into tackles and maybe having the captain's armband for the game previous, maybe Ian probably enjoyed that as well, didn't he? But I actually posted on the forum some stats 2 years ago when it was his first season, and even though he was at the time, what we would say, like a liability. I don't want to use that word; it's a bit strong, but when we had a good start to that season. Probably actually a better start than even we've had this season. And he got injured and missed about 18 games. Yes. And we only won, I think, 4 of the 18 games that he missed. And when he came back, we won beaten again for another 6 games again. He's a massively influential player. And I think at the moment we're almost taking it for granted that he's there. What is it now, 72 starts in a row? I think if he got injured above anyone else, I think it would impact the team a lot. We might be able to change formation to 4 at the back again, the way we want to play out from the back. Everything about Barbe at the moment, I feel comfortable with him in the team. I really like him. I don't think he's at any match that is less than 7 out of 10. And he would be, I think he's just worthy of a mention. Whether other players have had more standout performances, I just really think his influence is perhaps, everyone looks at Charlie Austin and Stefan Johansson, don't they? But Barbe is a major player, and I hope he doesn't get injured because you saw the impact there from those stats from the season before last. He would be a massive loss if anything happened to him.
It's pretty brave of you to go for Barbe. I mean, he's not a glamorous one, but when you've mentioned him, the one thing that I would add to that is that he does some fantastic diagonal balls. He really is good on those. And that's something that's needed if you're not going to go down to the line and cross over for your servicing the attackers. He is really, really good on that. So
it was as well. I forgot to say it, but it's the way as well. In this last month, he's gone from centre back. He's had to play at left back, and he's got assists. He's been down there. The goal, it was a Reading one, wasn't it? The ball, Willett kept it in. Barbe was there having the shot. The keeper then saved out to Johansson.
That's true.
He's covered that role brilliantly, and he just never lets you down anymore. I don't feel, even though I can't say the defence as a whole is a vulnerability to the team. Barbe, I think he's been great.
Okay, Stoty, would you go for Barbe as well?
No, I wouldn't go for Barbe. I'd certainly mention him because I think, as James has said there, he's been one of the most consistent players. He's been an ever-present, hasn't he? I mean, he played every game last year. He's played every game in the league, certainly this year. You just can't fault the guy. I think originally he wasn't suited by the 4-4-2.
I agree.
I'm convinced if we still had Manning here now and we were playing the 3-5-2 system that Warburton is now playing, I'm sure that was a much better system for Manning, and it's a much better system for Barbe as well.
Good point.
But for me, player of the I had between two. It was between Chair and Willock. Willock just continues to improve. He gets better by the game, and his versatility and now showing that he can play as a left wing back. I think we saw it once last year where he played in a bit of a defensive formation. But for me, overall, I've given it to Chair for his goals and for that cross for Charlie to head in against Everton. That was superb. And I just think that Chair now he gets better by the game as well. And he is he's got to be, him and Willock have got to be the first names on the team sheet. There was me at the beginning of the season thinking it would be Senny Dieng, but Senny is he's just gone off the boil a little bit, whether or not he's got no competition there now. Kelly's gone, Lumley's gone. He's made a couple of errors. I'm sure he would be disappointed by some of the goals that have gone past him. But no, for me, Ilias Chair, he was close last month when Dicky won it, and I would go for him this month and say no. He's been my main man.
That's interesting. That I looked at Dieng, and until he did those fumbles, I thought, there's a good starting point, because partly for the reason that James said, I often think the defence doesn't get a good look in when it comes to Player of the Month. But sadly, Dieng lost his chance with the fumble. Both Dunn and Ball have quietly but very efficiently got on with their job. They've done a fantastic job, each of them. Really surprised how good they've been. I mean, particularly Ball. But the strikers have misfired. So there's no way that I could include Gray, almost Dykes, but certainly not Austin. And so I was stuck between Chair and Willock, as you. And hard to believe this, I went for Chair as well. Purely, it's very, very close, because I agree with both of you. Willock has really, really come on. What he's doing now on that pitch is what we always wanted him to do, but he didn't manage to do last season. There now is a lot more consistency, a lot better playing. He's a bit more intelligent about what's going on around him. Everything's looking good for him. And maybe it's what you're saying in a way, Stotey. Maybe this style of play suits him. And it certainly does for Chair. Chair has done fantastic. Yeah. So my bet's Chair. So sorry about that, James.
You're both just forgetting about his mistake in the West Brom game, aren't you?
Yeah, no.
Okay, on to something else that I was going to ask you. In early September, my guests were optimistically predicting a place in the playoffs. We're a month further along now. Do you both feel less optimistic or still optimistic that we're going to be sitting in the playoffs come the end of the season?
Well, I'm confident. I'm confident that we're going to. I think that we will be in that top six. I think we'll probably only scrape into the top six because, we're prone to those mistakes. But I honestly believe that by Christmas, if we're still up there and challenging, I'm sure that the board will make a concerted effort to try and find funds for Warburton, should he need them, if he wants to bring somebody else in, because we know that the right wing-back spot is a difficult spot. And even if he just brought somebody in on loan, and there are going to be players available on loan, I could see us, the majority of our team, the first team, are very good. They're a match for anybody in this league. And and when I see how we've played against West Brom and how we played against Bournemouth, I don't think we got any team to be frightened of. I mean, it'd be interesting against Fulham, but no, I believe that we'll be up there.
James?
Yeah, definitely couldn't agree more. And I said it earlier, when we play our football and we're on song, I think we probably are the best team in the league. We just can't maintain it and we split off too much. So I have no doubt that we can finish in the top six. It's just going to be injuries, isn't it? We've already had our niggles hit, obviously, at left back. But imagine if we had a Chair out for 6 months, Willock could be out for 3 months. Yeah. That would really impact us. If we have our first team top six, I'd put money on it. And I never bet in my life, but I would put money on it. If our first team is good enough, it would just be an injury. Imagine a Dicky. It could be anyone really, but those players, if we had a couple of them out at the same time, and then you put in square pegs in round holes, and maybe having to change the formation, it just unsettles the team, doesn't it? So I do think we will finish top six. Obviously, really, really hope we finish top six. Just could be the injuries.
I'm with you on this. I think squeeze into the bottom half of the playoffs, which brings me to my next question. So if we do another against Derby and go through to the PL, do you think we'll do well there? That's a hell of a question.
It's an inexperienced squad on the most part, isn't it? And that could go against us. But again, there's examples out there where they play with the freedom and they're enjoying the moment, aren't they? And they want to impress and they want to get to the top level and so on and so forth. It's impossible. You wouldn't know who we're playing in all those kind of things. But and we had our moment at Wembley. Don't forget, we've been there, we've won. You know, we probably end up this time being the side of the stadium that is empty when the pictures come out. Would QPR really go to Wembley twice and win twice? It just seems so unlikely, doesn't it?
It does. No, I agree with you on that. Stotey, too ambitious?
No, I don't think so. I honestly believe this team that we're watching now has got a lot of. It's got that nice balance. It's something that we've been missing for a long time. For me, because we've got the likes of Charlie up front, and we've got Johansson in the midfield, and we've got the likes of Dickey at the back, and Dieng, he's there shouting. There are captains all over the field, and I just think our youth and our experience is balanced at this moment in time. The key, as James has intimated, is injuries, because the one thing we know with these guys, we've got injury-prone players in the team, and can they maintain it as the season, you know, from that Easter period at the end of the year when the games come thick and fast? Hopefully they can. Yeah, so I think if we get into the playoffs, I think the fans will, you know, that place will be rocking. Loftus Road will actually, you know, it'll be moving, won't it, with the noise they make. So, yeah, and if it's anything like the last time we went to Wembley, well, it's amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the attendance has never been beaten still, has it? The amount of fans we had there has still never been beaten.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realise that. That's good. You know, for me, I just worry. I think I'd be so nervous if we went up. I really would. I am loving this season, and I loved the second half of the last season. We're producing great football. We're living somewhat on the edge of our seat of our pants at times, but we're playing well, and I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying watching them. So, would I enjoy it in the PL as much when they're coming up against Liverpool and Man City? I don't know. Probably Brighton will say the same.
Yeah, look at Brentford. Brentford have gone up. I mean, they proved Sheffield United did it for a season, didn't they? It's all about consolidating when you get there and not being stupid. And I think the thing that Fernandes has done, he's learned, hasn't he? He's learned the lesson. And I used to criticise the board tremendously because they were frivolous. When we went up, they could buy anybody. They thought, you know, the name of the game was to buy top players, pay huge, silly money, and that was going to keep us in the Prem. It didn't. It doesn't work. You need a team. And Brentford have proved it this year, and all credit to them, that if you have a team of players, you don't have to have superstars in your team, but if they play as a team, you'll survive. I
agree. I totally agree. Okay, all right. My last question for you. I held this one over from last month as well, really. Which clubs do you believe will be relegated, and why? Start with you, James, if I may.
I think Hull. I think Hull. I know they beat Middlesbrough at the weekend, but Middlesbrough had a lot of chances in that game. They're not scoring a lot of goals. Hull. When we played them, they didn't. They were one of the weaker teams that we come up against. Blackpool are doing well. I had Blackpool at the start of the season. By the way, I'm not including Derby in this because obviously they're gone, aren't they? Derby are gone. It's Derby +2, isn't it? I'd say Hull. I would have said Blackpool, but they've only lost one of the last 6. They're doing all right. They're fine. At the moment, it probably looks like Peterborough, but they could still just be finding the feet. I'd say Hull and Peterborough, and those teams have just come up. There's definitely becoming a divide, isn't there, between the Championship and League One, in the same way there is from the Championship to the Premier League. Rotherham bouncing back again already. It looks like they'll be coming back in the season after, for example. I'd say Hull and Peterborough, but a team can nosedive at any point, can't they?
I think we've shown that. Okay, so Steve, what do you reckon?
Well, I tend to agree with what James has said, but I'd put Barnsley down there as well. This year they're struggling. They've lost some decent players, and it surprised me that Coventry are doing so well, and conversely Barnsley are doing so poorly. But once you get into that rut that Barnsley are now in, and they lost their manager, didn't they? They lost one of their star players and their manager, and I think they're going to struggle. But yeah, I would suggest, exactly as James has said, Hull and Peterborough will join Derby in League One next season.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Okay, I'll shove Posh down there. Oh, hang on. So you're saying Derby, Posh, and Barnsley, right? Okay, no Hull.
No, for me, it's Derby, Peterborough, and Hull.
Ah, okay.
I think Barnsley will be down there, but I don't think they'll go down. I just think they'll struggle.
Yeah, I must admit, I saved Barnsley as well. I mean, Hull and Derby for me were a no-brainer, but I added Forest to my list.
Oh, right.
Perhaps I was just being mean and malicious. I don't know. But, yeah, I do know some lovely Forest people, but I don't like the shenanigans there. So okay, so I think that's about it. So I'd like to close by saying thank you very much, Steve, for coming in at the last second on our third Hoops and Dreams podcast, and also thank Northwest Hoop, alias James, for all his efforts. And he is the gentleman who makes the Hoops and Dreams not podcast, but the actual forum tick over as well as it does. All the competitions are on there. I recommend you, if you've never actually been on it, come on there now and become a member, join the competitions, and have a bit of fun, have a bit of talk about QPR. And finally, a big thanks to Fox Fisher, who's edited this production. Tune in next month to see what 2 new guests I've got. Hopefully there will be 2 new guests, not recycling Stotey, poor lad. And have a say about your club, our team, and our QPR. This has been a Hoops and Dreams QPR podcast, and I wish you all a great month.